It was a Sunday morning and our dogs got out of the property, and they've got out before, but usually they'll come home by the end of a day's adventuring. On this particular day, they didn't. So the day went on and of course they didn't come home, and at the end of that day I picked up my kids and we decided to go searching, and I drove up and down the respective streets in the area calling out the names, and then got out and thought, no, I think we've got to go into the national park. And we ventured in on the quad bike, you know, playing the recorder, yelling their names. Then the track ended and I realised we had to go further in on foot. And out of nowhere comes Charlie, my Kelpie cross. I couldn't believe it. We were just like, what? It was like we just had the biggest win. We're all high-fiving each other, Charlie giving her big cuddles, and we're like, oh, couldn't believe it. Where's Loki? We said to her, where's Loki? And all of a sudden she turned around and hightailed back about 50 metres and proceeded to guide me to come off the track. She showed me the entrance to a wombat hole and she lay down. It was very out of character for her. And she was dead quiet. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, is my dog in the wombat hole? And I went over to the hole and I lay down next to her. And this time very calmly yelled, Loki, Loki, are you in there? You've got to tell me if you are. I heard this tiny whimper. It was barely audible. And in that moment, my heart just skipped a beat and I looked at Charlie and I went, oh my goodness, is my dog in this wombat hole? And I remember getting quite panicky at the time. I was really in the middle of nowhere on my own. What do I do now? I had no idea. I remember calling my partner who was away at the time, and together we thought, well, we really need to call some emergency services. I've never called 000 before. Anyway, we worked out. I called some local friends, and a local friend who was a policeman, and we were guided to get through to the SES. And as soon as the volunteers from the New South Wales SES arrived, I just felt so calm. They just took charge. They were so experienced, and they just reassured me at that moment that everything was going to be all right, even if it wasn't. I didn't really know, but I just felt like, oh, thank goodness there were people who knew what they were doing. And I took them down towards the location of the wombat hole, and as we got down there, I could tell that things were changing for them in their assessment of the situation, because it started to get a little bit more difficult, a little bit more steep, and they realised that they weren't going to be able to get any machinery down in here. They also realised that the wombat hole was under a rock escarpment. Usually in a dog rescue or any rescue from a wombat hole, they would drill down to that particular location and they would lift the person or the animal out. But they couldn't do that here. They couldn't bring machinery down to clear a space. And I knew that they were thinking, oh no, this is going to be a manual dig, you know. A hot day, they're in their orange SES overalls, and I really felt for them. And as we went closer and closer, the sound got softer and softer, and at one point Ron was in the hole, and as he got closer, something pushed back and everyone froze. And he dug a little bit further and it was the rear leg of an animal. And I remember him yelling out to me saying, is your dog tan? I'm like, yes. And is he quite a big dog? And I remember saying, yes. It's like, he's really stuck in this hole. And I remember him taking a photo and passing the phone back and showing me. And I remember bursting into tears because my dog was wedged like a sandwich in this tiny space. So then Dave King, the senior member from the SES, made a decision that we would continue to dig. We would continue to dig the dog out and down and slowly, just to make sure that the dog was kept safe. So they were very methodical at this point in the rescue. And they dug him out slowly and slowly. And Loki's whimpers got louder and louder until finally Ron emerged from that 2-metre hole and he said, there's enough space for him to come out now. And everyone was bone quiet. And nothing happened for a good 30 seconds. I was like, oh my God, what's happened? And all of a sudden he could hear this scuffle in the hole and Loki had dropped down and he took himself out of the hole. And everyone just burst into tears and was high-fiving. And that win that day was, I'm really kind of lost for words. Unbelievable, really. And everyone, you know, just such a collective, amazing outcome on a day that could have ended very, very sadly. And for me, I just will be forever indebted to the volunteers from the New South Wales SES, because without them, Loki wouldn't be here today. And you know, I'm will forever be grateful. And for anyone out there who wants to volunteer or join the SES, I really encourage you, because together we are better. As communities banded together, helping each other in times of need, we are better and stronger for it. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart, and yeah, in any way that we will pay it forward, we will.